Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs Podcast. This is season 6, episode number 19. Tonight's the Songs edition, Andy. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Getting ready here for summer outdoor concerts at the local drinking holes. That should be kind of fun.
The Shakopee Bowl there, I see. Your
Yeah.
cap is tonight's album review. Today's March 20th, 2025. We've got an album review from Soundgarden tonight, Andy. And
All
so
right.
let's get hopping with that. And then we got news and notes to follow. But Soundgarden, it's the album Superunknown, Andy. Superunknown. I did some research on finding out some of the meaning behind some of this. It's always been one of those strange albums I never really understood. Beginning with the artwork. Now, on the front is really just a picture of the band, kind of a goofy image with some lighting of the band, and then beneath it is an upside down picture of a woods with the forest fire or something. I didn't know that was inverted photo of a woods, and it's commonly just known this album cover as the Screaming Elf. It looks like a
All right.
screaming elf, but kind of weird. Fourth studio album by American rock band Soundgarden, released 1994. So this was 1 month before the Cobain death from Nirvana. So Seattle, a lot of Seattle stuff in this. Not that it had anything to do with it, but it was very pertinent to the whole scene at the time. So the album, this one, you'll like this, Andy. Superunknown retained its heaviness of the band's earlier releases. So this is more of a heavier sound, not really what I would call grunge, but more hard rock, some good heavy music. It debuted on number 1 on the Billboard 200. Some of these songs helped reach mainstream status for Soundgarden to be mainstream. And so I thought this was interesting, the songs that came out. 5 singles were released from the album. One was The Day I Tried to Live, My Wave, Fell on Black Days, Spoon Man, and Black Hole Sun. The last 2, which won Grammy Awards and helped Soundgarden reach mainstream popularity. This album went 6 times platinum. Now, Andy, we'll tie this into our Seattle background, but this was recorded at Bad Animals Studio in Seattle. The Heart Girls owned studio.
Ann and Nancy Wilson.
Ann and Nancy in the Seattle area. Yeah, that's called Bad Animal Studio. The recording sessions took place there. Chris Cornell said, there really wasn't a decent studio in Seattle, and now there's this new one that they set up with Bad Animals, and he's like, he couldn't wait to get going on this. Here's the interesting thing about the recording sessions for this. For this album, the drum and bass parts were recorded first for each song. And then Cornell and the guitarist Kim Thale would lay down their parts over the top of that. So I found that to be interesting. Superunknown lasts 15 songs and lasts 70 minutes. Now, this is interesting. So you get your mainstream now. You become pretty famous. You have 3 albums out, and this is their 4th. They had recorded a bunch of material and said, let's go through and start. What do we cut? What do we cut here for the actual album? And what they said was, we didn't want to really argue over what should be cut, so we didn't get into it. They said, you know what, just release it all. I found that to be very interesting. That's not what you see with a new rookie band. They go through all the songs and need just the bare bones what need to go, and the rest get cut and left on the editing room floor. This time they got 3 albums in. They're famous. Let's leave them all on there. That is it. Now, earlier stuff from the band, if you listen to some earlier Soundgarden, they really are punk, more of a punk influenced band, as with a lot of the early Nirvana Seattle stuff was very punk. Now they have songs that have a Middle Eastern or an Indian flavor. They have a couple songs that sound like a Beatles influence on this album. So I thought that was very interesting as well. Soundgarden also commonly uses alternative tunings and odd time signatures. Some of their songs they do with drop D tuning, stuff I like. I never liked at first. Boy, it takes a while to get used to this kind of odd music. It has to grow on you. It's so very different with the timing. and whatnot. So here is the tracks. Here we go. Let's find the tracks here. Once again, 15 songs. First song is Let Me Drown. Next song is My Wave. Good song there. This is I wouldn't say this was like the equivalent of, hey, watch your own bobber, but back in the surfing days, if you're surfing on the ocean, it's commonly known, hey, stay on your own wave. This is my wave. You go play on your own wave. Stay off my wave. That's what the whole song is about, is kind of mind your own business. I don't care what you do, what you like, or what your interests are, is what the lyrics on this are. Hey, believe in whatever you want. Just don't let it impact me, is really all that Cornell's saying. They're very good lyrics with all these. Fell on Black Days, song 3. Mailman is song 4. Mailman, Andy, relates to, remember when the post office shootings were big in the early 90s and the phrase going postal was big?
Yep, that was the term.
This song was written after an incident in Dana Point, California. And after reading it and reading the story about that, I just did that today. And if you read the lyrics, it ties into that experience there. And Chris Cornell wrote that from the point of the shooter or the killer, basically saying, look, you don't give me time of day, I'm going to take you all down with me. And we're all going down to hell, and I'm going to take you all with me. So very interesting song. That's called Mailman, with some very interesting lyrics. Song 5 is Superunknown. That's the title. Chris Cornell saw something in a magazine, or a music magazine or something, and they referred to some album as the Super Clown. He didn't see the word Super Clown. He just said, that's a cool name, because it's called Superunknown. And they said, no, Chris, read it again. Sober up, buddy. It says Super Clown. Oh, I thought it said Superunknown. He said, well, if it was, that'd be a cool name for an album someday. So it really doesn't mean anything. He just likes that kind of stuff. Song 6 is Head Down. Song 7, Black Hole Sun. Song 8, Spoon Man. We'll come into more information on that later. That's about the street performer in Seattle named Artis the Spoon Man. Song 9 is Limo Wreck. Song 10, The Day I Tried to Live. Song 11, Kickstand. Song 12, Fresh Tendrils. Song 13 is called 4th of July, Andy. This is a song about doing LSD. It's a trip gone bad on LSD. Very interesting lyrics, and kind of fun when you learn about it that way, when you understand that part of it. Song 14 is called Half. And song 15, the final song is Like Suicide. Like Suicide is a song about a bird, Andy, a bird that flew into Chris Cornell's living room window. Broke its neck. He said, wow, he was taking a nap. He said, what was that racket at the window? Checked outside, bird laying there. He said he hit that thing so hard, his neck is broke, so he had to use a brick to put him out of his misery. But he thought, it's almost like that bird tried to commit suicide. It's almost like suicide. So another song there. Random, weird stuff, but if you like it, you like it. Here's the personnel. Chris Cornell, lead vocals. Kim Thale, lead guitar. Ben Shepherd on bass. Another underrated great bassist. Ben Shepherd. Matt Cameron on the drums. And Matt went on to be a Pearl Jam guy as well. Artis the Spoon Man I talked about. I'm going to bring up the image here of Mr. Artis. Now, the actual guy, Artis, that from Seattle, who played the spoons there on the street, a street performer. Here's an image of him. They gave him credit, Andy, on track 8 for Spoon Man. Additional musicians, Artis the Spoon Man on the spoons. So they went ahead and gave him credit on the album. Here's another shot of Artis. Now, Susan Silver, Andy, is the manager. Susan Silver became Chris Cornell's wife later on after this. She was the record label manager, and was quite good, actually, I believe. I know they had their falling apart, and they had the arguments and lawsuits, and she wouldn't give back Chris Cornell his guitar after they got divorced, and a whole thing happened with it. But she was the producer at the time. Very well thought of it, and people liked Susan, and she had a lot of these hit albums they did. She was behind it. So whether you like her or not, Black Hole Sun. If you ever seen the artwork here in Seattle, there's a piece of art called the Black Sun. This is actually in Seattle. I did a tour there and got to see this and kind of look through it and whatnot. But you can look through it. There's a hole in it, and you can see different things in Seattle called, you can see the Space Needle, or Chris Cornell's version, the sun. As the sun passes through there, you can call it the Black Hole Sun. So they pay homage to all these things in Seattle that I never, before I got into the band, never really knew, never got into, never understood. I just knew these guys had a lot of songs that didn't make sense and whatnot. Now the band itself, Soundgarden. You know what the Soundgarden is in Seattle, Andy? An actual location called a Soundgarden. Steel sound sculpture in a park in Seattle that they went live with in 1982. And these guys says, hey, let's name our band after this. So one thing I've always liked about Soundgarden is the paying homage to your city and your roots and everything. A lot of Seattle things based on this information. Soundgarden is pumped and primed is a critique for Superunknown. He praised it. David Brown from Entertainment Weekly said this is a hard rock milestone. And it says, quote, this sets a new standard for anything called metal. Now, do you agree with metal, Andy? Is that a stretch?
I think it's hard when a band comes out and they're made and they make it big as grunge or as whatever. You kind of got to stick with that. I mean, some artists can change pop, rock, country. That's another argument for another day. But I don't think you can go from grunge, make one metal album, then go back to grunge again.
So
it's kind of the whole Kiss thing. Where it's like, did Kiss do a disco album? Well, they just kind of played the sound of the time. Did Soundgarden do a metal album?
Bands get typecast. They get typecast, and if you do something outside of that, it's a little different. But this guy went as so far to call it metal. Now the genre here says it's called grunge, it's called alternative metal, it's called heavy metal, and it's called hard rock. And so
I'll give it alternative metal over heavy metal.
Yes, I can see that.
I would go with that one.
So they released this album, 94. They released this. Cobain dies the month later. They go on tour. After this, doctors discovered that Chris Cornell had severely strained his vocal cords, and they had to cancel some shows because of the vocal cords. And if anything goes wrong there with your lead singer with the vocal cords, you got to put an end to that. So they had to do some shows to avoid causing any permanent damage. So that wasn't going to fly. This is 94. A lot of stuff happening in 94. Now, last quote here. You'll like this. This is a quote, Andy, from Def Leppard's Vivian Campbell.
Okay.
You're a big fan. He said, quote, we were listening to Nirvana and Pearl Jam, just like everyone else, he said back then, and especially to Soundgarden. He said, in particular, the Superunknown record. That was the record that we referenced in terms of the sonics and the mood of it when we were making the album Slang. Making Slang. What is Slang? Is that the album?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe so.
I don't know. I'm not a big Def Leppard guy later on.
I kind of lost track of them after a while in the 90s.
Yes, so very, very similar to that. So that's what he said. He said it was actually this album that they said, we listened to Nirvana and Soundgarden back in the day, because so did everyone else. That's what you were listening to back then. But in particular, this album, and this is, I think, the reason I like it, is it's got a heavier edge to it. It's got some great Ben Shepherd on bass, love Kim Thale. I saw these guys when they got back together with the reunion before Chris Cornell's death, and saw them at the Fitzgerald in St. Paul, actually. Great to see these guys perform with the lead guitar and the bass and the Matt Cameron on the drums. Kind of a bucket list later on in life, and I was able to see them. But good album. Pick it up if you can. 6 times platinum, 1994, but that's all I've got for
Slang came out in 96 for Def Leppard. It was after Adrenalize and before Euphoria. So, yes.
Oh, so after Adrenalize. Okay.
It came out May of 96.
96. So I may have to put that on, but it sounds like they mimicked a lot of this stuff content and as far
Which
as the sound and the sonics and the stuff, mood.
to the hard rock metal guy in me, that would be why that album slipped through the cracks for me then, though.
Yes. Okay.
If your sound went different, it's going to go a little different to me. Now, you got to remember, you said this one came out in 93?
94.
That was my dark hole country days.
So you missed it. I missed it. I was into hard rock, heavy metal
Yeah,
stuff, and I was not into the Seattle.
I'm a little late to the party on their stuff. I recognize the songs, but the whole stories behind it, I don't know.
Yes.
Catching up to it.
It's interesting stuff. Everything had a meaning. Everything meant something, and I just never understood the Soundgarden stuff. I didn't get the slang. It didn't make sense. Now, when you go by
the album, you said it was 15 songs in about 70 minutes.
70.
Why now at the time? Because a few years before that, Guns N' Roses did it with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Yep. Why not just come with 3 more songs and release 2 separate albums?
I don't know. It sounds like they already had the deal. They were going to do an album, and they didn't care about how long the things went. They were not long songs. Only one of them is a minute and a half. All the rest are 3 to 5 minutes. So good question.
I hate to say come up with 3, like that's easy to do, but wait, add 3 more songs and do 2 separate albums or a double album, or cut it back and then 6 months later release another one when you got more songs. Just kind of and that would be me. The money grab, you got 2 albums.
If the comments below, leave a comment if you know that. I'm not familiar with that myself, why they didn't do that, or why they maybe the plan was to do one all along. And like you said, it just got to be up there in music. A CD can hold 70. It was stretching it by then, but they said, let's just keep them all. Let's not cut any. So I don't know the answer to that.
Keeps you with your whole record deal.
Hopefully we'll get
the record contract. I got 2 albums I'm releasing now, but
and this was with A&M.
Okay.
Yeah, they were on the A&M label when they did this.
So maybe they were happy with them and didn't care.
That could be the case. I wasn't a big fan back then. I don't know how things went.
All right, here we go. First of all, as we do all this stuff for music, like I said, Dan wasn't into this stuff back in the 90s. We're talking about it. I was in those horrid country years for a while there. But we do listen to everything. We do go back and do our homework. We consider ourselves fairly knowledgeable. And if I ever made a mixtape on one of these, don't argue about us with music.
Andy, I saw this when you posted it, or I saw where the original maybe that you gleaned it from. But I had these exact same.
Yes.
We all did, right?
Yes.
That is badass right there.
Beach Boys, The Sounds of Summer Tour, Canterbury Park, May 22. There we go. The Canterbury Park concerts have started.
Now, but it's not. So this is not the amphitheater yet, because that's summer,
nope.
right? So I think
they're still at the park, so they're still trying to get some acts in there, get attention. Oh, look, we saw the Beach Boys there. Oh, look, there's the amphitheater over there. So trying to get people in.
Kind of a little introductory thing.
Also come up at Canterbury Park, celebrating Meatloaf band members.
Oh.
So if you're into Meatloaf and there's some people from his band that doing his songs, that'd be June 6 coming out there at Concerts at the Park, Canterbury Park. The Bellamy Brothers are coming back to Medina September 6th. The Misses and I saw them last year before, so good times. You like them?
We've seen them before once as well. Good show. Good show. Again, most songs you're going to know.
Yeah. And they don't mess around. They go song, 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 2 second story, song, song, song. They don't mess around. So they pop all the hits in. They get them all in.
Good stuff.
Halfway there, Bon Jovi tribute band. Here's some of their shows coming up. April 12th, Dance to Decades at the Dodge House in Maplewood. Hackmore Brewery in Chanhassen, May 3. Eisen's May 10th and Savage. There's some other dates they have on there. Check them out on their social medias.
Now so Andy, Hackmore Brewing is a brewery in Chanhassen. It's new. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 years old. Came out with the COVID. They have a whole a back room area, stage area for concerts and shows. It's not a little set up on the corner like some of these breweries that we've been to, where you have a little small stage like Excelsior Brewing or something.
They shuffle some tables off to the side and put a stage up there.
This is a big a stage that's meant to do this. and they clear some tables off, and you have a whole big dance area, huge, tall ceilings. I think it'd be good to see a concert. I think it'd be a good venue, is what I'm trying to say. I've never seen anything there, but that one is good.
Check and see what we're doing.
Yes.
Dustin Bones is going to be at Turtles in Shakopee, April 18th.
This is one of those you've got to get to for the listeners out there, especially at Turtles, right?
Yeah. So now I want to be fair to most of the guys in Dustin Bones. So, you got Eric, and there's Mike, there's Alan. Can't forget Adam's other band, Menace. 517 out, the Thirsty Buffalo out in Buffalo.
Love it.
Menace out there. A little love for all the guys there.
Okay.
A little history note for today. A couple sad deaths on this date, March 20th. First, in 2020, Kenny Rogers had passed away. Just 5 years before that, AJ Puro from Twisted Sister. Now, yes, two totally different musicians, but my growing up, two very important musicians to me. Kenny Rogers, of course, Mom and Dad were big Kenny Rogers fans, so I had no choice but to be a Kenny Rogers fan growing up. You had to get used to it. So appreciate his music throughout the years. What he did for music, I thought was incredible. And then AJ, of course, with Twisted Sister, just the stuff they did early 80s to mid 80s for the rock and the roll and the glam and the punk and heavy metal and the hair bands, whatever you all call them. AJ Puro passed 2015, Kenny Rogers 2020. And like we said earlier, we said on the sports show, we have a new member of the family. There's our Adopt a Highway. We've adopted a highway.
Nice.
Out in the Mayer area there, New Germany.
A 2-mile stretch is now our new baby, Andy.
Yes.
We
haven't named it yet, but we are going to do a highway cleanup thing coming up. We will post on our social medias when those days are. Love to have you join us for the fun, the laughs. And Connie said she's got some extra money in the coffers if we want to buy a couple drinks for folks afterwards too.
Well, that'll be good. That'll be a fun time. I think we should do that first. Nice. It's always a good problem to have. So that'll be an ongoing project. We'll be doing that twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall, of course. But that'll be it. Well, the first part of, I think, next month we'll set up a date and do that and get everything cleaned up there and get a sign posted with Sports and Songs name on the sign. Anything else, Andy, as far as shows and things? It's going to be, once we get into April, these outdoor patio shows, it's going to be fun stuff.
Just was a little shout out to everybody. You don't have to be a friend of ours on social media to get your band plugged on the show. We've never had halfway there on the show. We still push their shows.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Bellamy Brothers have never been on the show. We plugged their shows. But if you want to get your stuff sent, put on, just drop us, tag us on your Facebook post. We'll see it and we'll forward it onto the program like this. That's all we ask. No money changes hands. Just tag us. We'll flip it on over here and put it on here for you.
Yep.
And if you want to be on the show too, just let us know.
Awesome. Sounds good. Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday.
That's all I got. Bye.